Welcome, sellers. Today we'll explore how you can turn your selling hobby into a full-time business on eBay. Lots of sellers, just like you, started off selling a few niche or random things lying around the house that they no longer needed. They quickly realized they could grow this little side gig into a full-time career and make real money while having a ton of fun. Today we're going to cover at a high level some of the things you'll want to keep in mind if you're considering doing eBay full-time or are just curious about what it takes to get there. We'll cover 4 main areas. 1, setting up your business strategy and goals, understanding marketing and promotion, delivering operational excellence, monitoring performance, and making data-driven decisions. When looking to grow from a hobby to a business, it's important to understand scalability. Essentially, it's about finding products that are in demand, that you can source competitively and sell profitably. The first step you'll want to think about is some market research. Look for products with consistently high demand or trending interest. Use eBay tools like Therapy Product Research to find products and categories that are selling well on eBay. Also consider external research tools like Google Trends and other third-party sourcing systems to understand new trends and growth areas outside the eBay marketplace. Analyze competition. Find other listings on eBay for those products and categories. Understand their pricing strategies, their listing descriptions, and their customer feedback. Look for underserved niches or opportunities where you can differentiate yourself. Next, focusing specifically on products, you'll need to think about seasonality, price points, ease of sourcing, storage, and shipping. Each of you will have different considerations when it comes to these variables. For instance, smartphone cases are in demand all year round. They're light, small, and relatively inexpensive to source at scale. However, the market is also filled with thousands of sellers in that space. Can you really differentiate yourself? Do you have special smartphone case designs that buyers can't find elsewhere? Can you produce or source them more cost-effectively than your competition? Finally, imagine the ideal future for your business. You're turning a hobby into a business, and you need to change your mindset accordingly. Consider where you want to be in the next 3 or 5 years. And once you have a clear vision and mission, it's time to set SMART goals. And by SMART, I mean specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, for specific, as the name suggests, be specific. Instead of saying, I'm going to grow sales, specify, I'm going to increase monthly sales by 30% in the next 6 months. Be measurable. Define metrics to track your progress and measure success. And these could be anything from customer satisfaction to more specific operational or performance metrics like time to ship or average days to sell. Set achievable goals. Trying to grow your business 10x in 3 months probably isn't realistic. Set goals that are realistic and attainable. Be relevant. Align your goals with your mission, your vision, and the overall business objectives. And set time-bound goals. Set short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals to create a progressive timeline. A key element of thinking like a business on eBay is leveraging the power of eBay's marketing and promotion tools to build your brand, create relative promotions, and drive visibility to your listings and storefront. There are several tools that eBay offers to help with this. And these include setting up an eBay store, using promotions like Markdown Manager, and leveraging eBay's ad capabilities like promoted listings. Getting started with an eBay store is a great way to formalize your transition into being a professional seller. When creating your eBay store, think about defining your brand's personality. I have met sellers selling all kinds of interesting and unique things. For example, I've met sellers selling vintage soda cans and bottle caps from all over the world. I've even met sellers selling vintage airline memorabilia. And I've also met sellers that sell anything and everything they can get their hands on. Bring out this uniqueness to your store. Develop a memorable brand name for your business and craft your brand story. Connect with your customers on a personal level through storytelling. Add your story in the dedicated space on your storefront. Share the journey behind your eBay store, the inspiration for your products, and the impact you aim to make. eBay offers various promotional tools to increase your visibility and drive increased conversion. Experiment with features like promoted listings, which boost your product's exposure, and Markdown Manager order discounts and coupons, which allow you to create special offers and discounts to incentivize shoppers to buy more from you and more often. Leverage social media and influencers. Utilize eBay's social tools to publish your listings to social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Showcase these products with customers all over the world and let them engage with your brand. Collaborate with relevant influencers that can further amplify your brand's reach. And finally, regularly analyze your marketing campaigns by tracking key metrics such as click-through rates and campaign conversion. Use this data to make informed decisions and refine your strategies. Now that you've got your sourcing strategy in place, you've set up your store and are ready to scale into a business, what's next? Another key differentiation for business sellers on eBay is the need to strive towards operational efficiency and excellence. This means being efficient with listing processes, inventory management, prompt order fulfillment, and customer communication. Let's start with listing processes. For many sellers, scaling their business is going to involve creating many more listings and adding new listings frequently. Getting more efficient with this process will save you time and make your listings more consistent. Start with images. If you're not already doing this, consider taking your images ahead of time before starting to list. Next, if you're not already familiar with eBay's bulk listing flow, start there. From your computer, visit eBay's Seller Hub and select the option to create multiple listings from the Create Listing option. Finally, standardize your listing style. Use templates where possible. Standard handling times, shipping, and return policies. The next key aspect of operational excellence is efficient inventory management. It's crucial to have a streamlined system in place. If you don't already have one, create a system to help you track, organize, and update your inventory. Many sellers initially start with spreadsheets, and that's okay. They're efficient and they're cost-effective, but ultimately, sellers want to scale to something that's more dedicated and professional to manage this. Next, once you've got orders, it helps to think about fulfillment as another critical area for operational excellence. Start with regularly monitoring your eBay account for incoming orders and aim for quick processing. The faster you fulfill orders, the happier your customers will be. Consider using eBay shipping labels. When you print a shipping label on eBay, our negotiated rates let you save money relative to what you would have spent at the post office or to another carrier. And you'd save time by not having to stand in line. Providing exceptional customer service is crucial for operational excellence. Start with ensuring a prompt response to inquiries and messages. Set a goal of responding within 1 business day or better. Clearly communicate your return policies and procedures to avoid any confusion. Keep your messages professional and friendly. Consider using eBay's mobile app to communicate with your customers on the go. Finally, pay attention to customer feedback and reviews. Reviews won't always be positive, and that's okay. Learn from the experience and use the feedback as valuable insights to improve your products, your processes, and your overall customer experience. The final key pillar in transforming your hobby into a business is becoming familiar and comfortable with the data behind your business. The great news is you don't need to be a data scientist. You can leverage eBay's existing tools to simplify this data and consume it in easy-to-understand dashboards and charts. As mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, a great way to start with data is to identify a set of metrics that you want to measure and excel at. Beyond these, it's helpful to identify metrics that are relevant to your business. These could include conversion rates, which is how many of your listings have had a sale in the past 30 days, average order size and value, basically, are your marketing promotions working and are they increasing your cart size, and customer feedback. Are buyers delighted with the experience when they buy from you, and would they buy from you again? Next, get familiar with your seller level and what drives it. eBay already tracks certain operational metrics across all sellers to ensure we're providing customers with an excellent experience on the platform. These include defect rates like SNADs, shipment rates, and case resolution rates. eBay uses this data to determine your seller level on the platform. Based on your sales history and the quality of service you deliver to your buyers, you'll be automatically assigned one of the following seller levels. These can be top-rated, above standard, or below standard. As a top-rated seller, you are one of the best sellers on eBay. You provide an exceptional quality of customer service, as well as meeting minimum sales requirements needed for the top-rated seller level. As an above-standard seller, you're meeting our minimum standard for sellers and are looking after your customers well. Good job. Finally, below-standard sellers are not meeting one or more of our minimum requirements for quality. It's helpful to note that your seller level is different depending on what region you're selling in. This means you can be a top-rated seller in one region while being an above-standard seller in another. To elaborate further, let's take a look at the seller level dashboard. You can find this within the My Account section in My eBay. Now, when you get to the seller level dashboard, you'll actually see three things right away. Your current seller level, which in this case is above standard, your past seller level, so what it was in the previous cycle, and your predicted future seller level. So if we evaluated you today, what we think your seller level would likely be. In this case, you can see the current seller level is above standard and the predicted future level is also above standard. Now let's take a look at what's driving this. So you can expand your current seller level and understand the metrics that are helping eBay make this decision. So there are 5 things here. There's your transaction defect rate, your late shipment rate, the number of cases that were closed without a seller resolution, tracking uploaded on time and validated, and finally, your overall transactions and sales. For transaction defect rate, it's at 0.83%. And as you can see, the seller needs to be at 0.5% or better to be considered top-rated. Now, when eBay determines your seller level, it looks at 2 things. One is that you needed to be top-rated in all of these categories. And the second is that if you had even one where you were not top-rated, in that case, you wouldn't qualify. So in this particular case, the seller at 0.83% is just below the threshold and is considered above standard. So even if all of the other ratings would have been top-rated, in this case, this is why the seller was above standard. Let's look at some of the other ones. Late shipment rate. 1.544% is great. The seller's actually doing really well because they need to be at 3% or better to be top-rated. Similarly, with cases closed without resolution, the seller is doing fantastic. They're at 0.14 and they need to be at 0.3 or better. Now, with the transactions uploaded on time and validated, the seller needs to be at 95% or better to be top-rated. And you can see they're just below that. They're close at 93.18%, but they're not quite there. The seller probably had a couple of packages at one point that were uploaded late, a couple of transactions that were uploaded late, and therefore the overall number has fallen below. The great thing about this is eBay evaluates this in a continuous 12-month cycle, so a rolling 12-month window. So if this happened, let's say 11 months ago, and the seller has been generally on time after that, you can imagine that this will slowly fall off, and going forward, the seller will probably be really good and possibly top-rated in this metric as well. And then finally, looking at transactions and sales. Now, the seller needs to have 100 or more transactions and $1,000 or more in sales. And in both these metrics, you can see they're doing really, really well. They're clearly in the top-rated seller category. Now let's see where they stand in the future cycle. Once again, the transaction defect rate is still a little bit higher than they need to be for top-rated. So even if everything else was top-rated, they would still be above standard overall. Again, like I mentioned, in this case, about 5 of these transactions were out of stock. Now, if this happened, let's say a long time ago, 6 months back, 10 months back, the good news is, as time progresses, so long as the seller manages to stay generally okay on this metric, they should actually move out of this and possibly become top-rated in this metric as well. Glancing really quickly at some of the other ones, I can already see that the transactions uploaded on time is actually improved a little bit from the previous month. So they're still not quite at 95%, but they're very, very close. And my feeling is, if things stay well in this month and the next month, very likely they'll probably get into 95% and become top-rated in even this category. And finally, of course, the transactions and sales overall, they're doing really, really good on. There's a couple of more metrics here that they can look at, things like the return rate. So returns are normal when you have 700 plus transactions like the seller does. Having a certain percentage of returns is completely understandable. And in this case, the seller can quickly see where this is happening. So it's happening within clothing, shoes, and accessories. That's 43 out of the 600 listings that they've sold have had this problem. So maybe we can deep dive a little bit into the purchase price. So looking at the pricing of the items, you can see that most of their returns are happening in the items that are priced above $100. And usually what that means is that for some reason the buyer, they're buying an expensive item, they were concerned about the look and feel about something in the item itself. So one thing the seller can probably do in this case is consider taking more images of the item, maybe take detailed images if there are any defects or blemishes they want to highlight, and probably enhance the description a little bit so that buyers are better informed about the item before they receive it. So with this, we've taken a quick look at the seller level dashboard, and now I'm going to take you on to see the performance dashboard and look at sales insights. For our next demo, we're going to look at the sales insights dashboard. Now you can find this in the Seller Hub under the performance tab. In this particular case, we're going to look at the sales for this seller this year versus the same period last year. Now, it's really important when you're looking at your sales to compare an equivalent time period. On eBay, just like with any other marketplace, seasonality can play a big role in how much you sell one time versus another. Diving a bit further into the details, the first thing that catches my attention is the seller's actually doing pretty well. They've had nearly $20,000 of sales so far this year. But they're actually down compared to last year. They're down by just over 11%. Looking a little closer at this, I can see that their quantity sold is down by just over 5.5%. And then the average sales price for each item that they sell is down by about just over 5.5% again. And so these two things combined have obviously resulted in their overall top line sales or total sales coming down by that 11% number. But while that itself is concerning, another number here has caught my eye, and this is something I want to look into more. So while their top line sales or their total sales are down by 11%, their net sales, or basically their sales after costs, are actually down much more than that. They're down by nearly 24%. So we're going to look at this a little bit more and try and understand what's happening here. Scrolling further down, there's some interesting insights that eBay provides sellers. So you can see how many buyers have actually bought from you in this time period. Now, between this year and last year, it's been about 330 buyers this year. It's a bit down from last year, but it's within tolerance, I would say, generally. Where they have seen a decrease is in repeat buyers. It's down by, they've lost a couple of repeat buyers this year. Repeat buyers, again, are a great way to validate that you're doing things right. If a buyer's having a great experience on your store with your products, there's a good chance they're going to come back and buy from you again. So if your repeat buyers are going up, that's a great sign that you're doing something right. If your repeat buyers are going down, you may need to think about how you want to engage them better. Further down, we can start to see things like the sales broken down by category. Now, this particular seller sells a lot within the overall clothing, shoes, and accessories, but within that, they sell in different places. They sell, women's coats and jackets, they sell women's handbags, sweaters, and so on. Now, while they've seen tremendous growth in women's boots and in men's jackets, they've actually seen a decrease in women's handbags and sweaters. Now, I'm not going to look into this too much at this point because that could just have been related to the type of merchandise they had available for sale last year versus this year. It is probably worth investigating more time and seeing if the seller can spend, more time, let's say, sourcing better items and more interesting items. But for now, we'll move forward. I still want to look more closely at what's driving their reduction in profitability. This chart starts to show us some more interesting information. Overall, like we said before, the total sales are just under 20,000, and they're down about 11% year over year. Now, two things instantly are very interesting to me. The seller has been using promoted listings, which is a great way to get more visibility for your listings. Yet, their overall sales from promoted listings are down by over 30%. Their organic sales are up by nearly 17%. And because they're losing so much more from their promoted listing sales compared to last year, that's brought their overall top line sales down by just over 11%. Now let me take a look at April, for instance. Clearly here we can see that there's been a reduction both in promoted listing sales and in organic sales. But if I moved over to March, interestingly, organic sales were up by 30%, which is fantastic. But promoted listing sales were actually down significantly by 50%, resulting in the overall sales being down by nearly 22%. Going down a little bit further, we can look at selling costs. And this one's really interesting because here we can see that the selling costs are about 22.6% of the total sales, and that's gone up quite a bit over the previous year. It's gone up by 11 percentage points, and that's really, really big. My guess is, looking at this, is that their shipping label costs have probably gone up. Now, we would have to investigate this more, but shipping costs have been going up for sellers across the board over the last 12 to 24 months. And the chances are that it's gone up for this seller as well, and they've maybe not been able to compensate that on the overall item price. So I think something to look at for this seller is, one, can they get their shipping labels more effectively? For instance, try to use eBay shipping labels if possible. And the second one is, how do you start to bake in more of your shipping costs into your overall sales numbers? Let's look at some key takeaways. As next steps, first, decide if transforming into a business is right for you at this time. Second, if it is, create a plan for your business. Decide what you want out of it and how you'll evaluate yourself. And finally, get started. Learn and iterate. Good luck. Thank you all for coming. We'll move on to Q&A. I look forward to answering your questions.